Thank you. Welcome all to this BCF. Before I jump to the conclusion, I would like to ask you what is BCF do? What is BCF do? If I say BCF, you have to respond with one word. What would it be? Nothing?
Communication.
Communication. Something else?
Collaboration.
Something else?
Performance.
File format?
Yeah.
Issue? Issue?
Feedback.
Feedback?
Dynamic flow, dynamic information.
Dynamic information?
Yeah, if I say static, it's dynamic.
Something else?
Yeah, that's all. Something like a record of noise, record of the conversation.
Right, Nico. Record.
Yeah, you can put a slash maybe documentation. Or track, record, track. Track is a better for track.
Maybe exchange. Vertically.
Maybe with it's all right.
Yeah.
You can
Something else? We have a lot, right? But this actually is quite a lot. And most of the time when I ask people what is BCF, they refer to what is the software telling BCF is, right? So people that use Navisworks, they call this a flash. People that use SolidBree call it an issue. And so there's different, maybe in generally you call it a comment. But none of these actually. Yeah, so that's quite nice. It's quite nice. I think this is nice because it's much more than just an issue, right? It's much more than just maybe a clash with something. And that's something that that I've been talking about with the BCF Initiative. So today I'm going to talk about the initiative and the practical guidance. So what does this initiative come up with in the end? About me, I'm a small business owner, part of the Benelux chapter, involved with the professional certification, Dutch training company, and the international BIM support. So over to the BCF initiative. Does anyone know this? There is an initiative about BCF because it's not only formal channels, buildingSMART, but it's more like it started just from users getting together. So I'll take you through this initiative in the past 3 years, what we've been doing and what the results are. So we started in 2019. A few companies from the Netherlands. We had a get together. We thought about BCF and maybe get a project started. And then in October we had our first activity proposal. And in May we had a BCF tutorial session. It's actually quite nice because we did it with some software vendors. We created a role play, and yeah, these vendors participated. And during the session, I'm not sure if anyone has seen this, but it's still email somewhere. And then in July, we had a couple of users from the Netherlands. They came together to build departments. We'd like to have people be more uh, clear, right? Just like the BIM-based IDS. And we also want to create a chart for BCF. It's for all other people to better understand and maybe to better implement in their projects. September we had a detailed project plan for BCF, and in October we had our second tutorial session. Nice thing about this tutorial session, the first one was the coordination during design stage, and the second one was design stage and construction stage with all different vendors. It's quite nice. And then in the fourth quarter of 2020, we had our first draft of the infographic. There was in April 21, we started with an international meeting, just people gather around, talk about use cases on BCF, but also how BCF is adopted within the different countries. Many countries use BCF, but yeah, the use cases are not well known by everybody. And then in May, we had the launch, the official launch of the Dutch infographic on BCF. That was presented, and then in September, there was the first English version of the infographic. And nowadays, you can download this infographic on the buildingSMART website. So we had our summit in October last year, where we explained, based on the infographic, some use cases, so people could really see what's happening with this infographic and how to use this within their projects. We had our first Spanish one, and in November we created manuals for software to work with this infographic. So that was quite nice also. It's only in Dutch now available. And then in 2022 we wanted more manuals, and we had the French version. And this is nice because this was the first version. It says, yeah, avec le BCF, but that was the first draft. And then this year, in April, we started with the UCM project to really get all the use cases on BCF in a more consistent way published on the UCM website. So that's still work in progress. And in May 2022, we had the French version, and it says communication facilement avec le BCF. I'm not really good in French, but something like that. So it changed a bit. Then in June, there were more manuals, and in July, we had our new website in the Netherlands where we had this project on the UCM started. And in the present time, yeah, we're still working on the use case management. Yeah, we want to upload some use cases this year. And yeah, we're still working with a group, and the infographic is now available in 4 languages. And that's all on the website. Yeah, we have these manuals, and they were created by users, end users. They use some sort of tool, and yeah, they explain how the infographic works within these applications. So that's what I've been doing with the BCF initiative, and last couple of years. But yeah, what's the practical guidance for end users from this BCF initiative? Well, that's actually yeah, quite a lot. There's these tutorial sessions, part 1 and part 2, with a lot of people, and we have the infographic. And this infographic, I hope you all have seen it. Maybe it's very clear, very easy, keep it simple. And it's about why BCF, why should you even use it? And if you use it, then what is it? When do you use it and why? So it explains in a very easy way what it is. So it says here by 2.1, it says what is BCF? It's issues. Yeah, so I asked you what is BCF, and somebody said issues. Most people recognize BCF for an issue, right? But it says in the text, BCF is meant for better aligning of issues like results of a model check, but also expectations, comments, remarks, and maybe we can fill in with all these things we've done. So it's much more than an issue, but to keep it recognizable for most users, we call it issues. And how does it work? So this is on the chart, the manuals. The manuals tell you where to put in the description, where to put in the name, what to do with objects, images, comments, because every tool works a little bit different. And now we have these separate languages, right? So we have French also, and ningún problema con BCF, and Spanish. And after that, we created this video on the summit as well. And this explains some use cases on BCF. And let me try to start one of these videos. I'm not sure if that should be fine. I'm not going to play the whole video, but just want to take a look at 2 use cases that might differ from what most people recognize for BCF. I think maybe 90% of the people use BCF for model check, results, and clashes during design stage. So it's basically on coordination, but this has some examples on different use cases. It's not really fast. And Wi-Fi as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not reacting. Okay. I'm just going to talk about it because this is taking too long. You can look for yourself this video, and in this video we had 4 different use cases, and I did the first one, and it was more like a call for action because we were on the building site talking with the building site managers, and we had to investigate some point in the project. It was a call for action for someone else to go and take a look and respond with a picture on the BCF. So there was something else than just a flash. Then we had the third one that was Dan, and Dan created the timetable. So he created like all tasks from a timetable, and he just converted it to BCF, and then every task is a BCF issue. So in that way, you can really manage these tasks. That's really nice. So if you want to learn about this, please have a look at this video. And the other 2 were more the basic way of coordinating. We have the manuals. So let's take a look at one manual. This is, for example, BinTrack, and it's very basic. So it shows the tiles that are in the infographic, and it shows the tool, and with numbers it says, okay, there's a name, there's a description, there's the status, and so on. So we see that in many tools there's more than just what's in the standard, but we try to keep it to the standard because otherwise we might exchange information that's not coming through the other user. Yeah, so about what's the title in BIMsync, or in BIM Collab, or in Revit, and there's a lot of manuals so far. And I personally think they're so easy to read that it doesn't even mind that it's in Dutch. And there's the use cases for the use case management. And here we try to create from a table of content that would be exactly the same for different use cases, publish it on the UCM tool, so that everybody has this, it has the same look and feel, and anybody can learn about this, these use cases. And we had some discussion about if you have a use case and we use BCF, shouldn't we maybe address what's not going so good, or what's technically not great in separate tools? But this was a discussion on a very technical level, and we wanted to keep it simple. So we're still struggling with a way to get feedback on the standard to the more technical people from the use cases. Yeah, so it's a small group, and we have a small talks every week on the use cases. So the BCF goal is what the BCF Initiative is. We have every 4 weeks, and we just talk on use cases. Anybody has something new from their chapter or their country, or what have you been involved in? What else new? We came with our infographic, and now we have the UCM call every week for only 30 minutes, and we try to evolve with the UCM, with the use cases. And this is actually for anybody to join. So it's not only buildingSMART people or whatever. Anybody can contact me and join this calls. So let's take a look at another use case for BCF. Very different from results from a model check. I use it the customer journey. That's when someone wants to buy a house, and he gets in contact with a estate manager, and after that he gets in contact with the contractor. And these contractors, they have a department for clients or a customer. And what they do is, as I see, it's a bit painful because it could be more digitalized. And I thought BCF could be handy here. It could be very well put in place. So let's see what happens with this customer journey when someone is buying a house from maybe a contractor, and he has to make certain decisions on where to put the power sockets, or where the kitchen would be, and what the kitchen would look like, and all sorts of stuff. And there's contractors in the Netherlands that say you have only little amount of options, so maybe only a few. And there's contractors that say, you can change anything. So that's a broad perspective of how it is. And with this use case, I was with a contractor that was very, you could do anything. If you want all power sockets, like 10 in a row somewhere, okay, if you just pay, it's okay, right? So let's see, this is the digital way of in the process, and we see there's a standard building, and then we have two types of options. One is what they call the rough options or the hard options. It's where the foundation must be widened or something. And later on you have the options that are more about power sockets or tiles or whatever. It looks a bit the same like this, right? Or in another explanation like this. So it's all about stages and where in the stage did you put in this information. So somewhere in the first part there's the part where the buyer comes in, he wants to maybe buy a house. And if he buys a house, he can get some options. Maybe the facade is 2.5 meters wider, and then he gets the options on the small things like tiles, and power sockets, and whatnot. So, in the traditional process, what does this look like? It starts with the estate agent. And this estate agent, that's the first time that the buyer go to actually buy the house. And he gets to choose his first options. And those options are only about maybe the bigger, the facade that's going 2.5 meters, but not the smaller options. So after this process, you get like an Excel sheet or a PDF from the estate agent. And he tells you, okay, this is buying X, and he wants at least these options, and he assigned it here, so it's okay. It's funding from the bank, so yeah, that's okay. And then this goes to the designer. So the designer he maybe widens his house and does whatever these options are. And then we go to the customer guidance. So that's the department within the contractor that really does the guidance for the customer. Yeah, and this is where it gets a bit tricky, because they are sitting next to each other and they're talking about these options, and it's all annotations on paper because the buyer has these drawings about his house, and the customer guidance starts annotating on what he wants. So it's okay with one buyer, one customer, but you get all these annotations and take them to your desk, and at the end of the week you have like several customers, and at the end of the week you process these into a system and create the drawings, and these drawings are so that the buyer knows which options are chosen. And you get all sorts of statuses. So this buyer, this customer can tell you, I would like these and these and these options, but he's still not. It's still not the status that it's a go, because he might change himself, and that's hard, because in this example we have like four different statuses on every option. And the status we're looking for is the status that is okay to go, right? It's a green. But yeah, with every option, no matter how big this option is, maybe only one power socket here, you could create a whole new drawing with a whole new status. And also you have to look at the other statuses. So that's unmanageable. It's not really nice. So, and then sometimes when maybe the customer says, I would like a wall here with some door and this and this and this, and the customer guidance doesn't know what this would mean in cost. So he contacts some specialist, maybe internal specialist or external specialist, but that's an email or a phone call. And all this information is gathered from the specialist, from the notes taken on the annotations and drawings. They put a price on it, make a list, and then the customer can say yes or no. But if he says yes and the next day he says no, that's all okay. So That's why we have so many statuses. So they're going to process all this information, and yeah, they use Business Central. It's a 4PS, right? And they create this whole log of every option with every buyer, every customer, and every status. So that's actually quite some work. And then again, they create drawings and documents after this process information. So in the end, they want a drawing that says everything is green to go, and we can go outside and create it. But we see in reality that some customers, they come in when they already started outside, and some customers are there when there's nothing really. So, and people can change anywhere in time just until it's ready outside. So they're really flexible, but that's also a problem because it creates a lot of workload for the customer guidance. And this repeats on and on for every option, for every buyer, for every customer, for every house. So they can manage like maybe 50 buildings, but not more, because then we need another customer guidance, because it's just too much work. And you see within these projects that when they have all these conversations, like these conversations, it's a lot of work, and you see like it's stressed out because yeah, it's just a lot of workload. It's a lot of workload. So I thought about doing it differently. And here we see that we can actually use a tool like Solibri to to create from this Business Central list, create issues. So every option could be an issue. And this is what is always done. We have the standard building. We have this is what the designer does. He creates drawings, he creates a model, different formats, and that's what he's always been doing. Because this buyer, customer, he wants a drawing, right? And this drawing is taken to the first conversation with the contractor. Then after that, you get the other optionals, so the smaller options. And yeah, we see in time that they actually go too far, right? It should be a lot smaller maybe. And after that, you get the other participants like the MEP and the subcontractors, and they all use the tool they like. Yeah, in the process. So they use home control for the customer. So the customer logs into home control and they sets OK for some options. And this actually has a synchronization with the Business Central. And from Business Central, we can export and go to BCF and put it in the process. And that's the big plus, because when it's in the process, we can do anything with it. So in the process, we can set, okay, this is a question for somebody, like you, firstly you would have a call or put an email. Now you can say, okay, I just assign it to someone to get back to me with an answer. That could be internal, external. And in the end, we could archive it, right? Like we have the whole set of what's happened, when or where. So we did it like this. We said if you have an issue, then the title of the issue is the code that's been given to the option. We have status. We have a status for the customer. That's actually the type. So the type is now the status. We have the assigned to, that's who does the first action. And we have labels to label the which building is it, which buyer is it. Yeah, and of course we have the where is it in 3D. And that would be the annotated drawing in the first place. So we can import this in Solibri and say, okay, the first column is the code, and the second is the description and whatever. And then you get these issues. So in the process, you firstly get the issue in the when you process from an Excel file to BCF, you have no viewpoint. But the first action is for the designer. And the designer, he maybe has to make this building 2.5 meters wider. And he puts in the viewpoint. So he can see about in the label where it is. He sees what he needs to do, and then when he's done, he just establishes with the viewpoint, so anybody can see that he has done his work. And that's where it actually starts the journey for the 3D viewpoint. So it was more like this, with drawings created. It was hard maybe to even get a nice drawing because we saw that some text was upside down, and we had like 4 statuses, and that's only per buyer, per customer. And we had all these annotations. We used email and phone calls, and to change this in a more digitalized way with the use of BCF. And now we have all these options. They are within the CDE, that's BIMsync in this case. And we see that there's different issue boards with BIMsync. And we use the issue board that says customer guidance, and all options are there. All options for the customer guidance are here to be managed. So now this customer guidance can filter on type, on label. You can see what's the status on some building within some block or whatever. Very easy to manage. And from there, if he says it's okay to be, this is okay to build outside, then we go to a different issue board. So we switch from issue board that says customer guidance to an issue board that says what's this in English? It's construction. So these are all. This is the site manager. So now all these options are addressed to the site manager. So any option where they code something about some particular house is for this site manager to check. And if he says, okay, this is built, then we can close the issue. So that's a very different way to track these options. And actually, the site manager is very enthusiastic because he said, in present days, I didn't even have time to check all these options. So I have to check and get all these drawings and then see if the socket is on the right place. But in 2D, you have to what height is the height of A. It's very hard to really check. So very honestly, he said, mostly I don't have the time to check because it's too much work. Yeah, now he says this is more easy because you can just filter on some house, all these options. Just okay, this is good, this is good, this is good. And if something is not good, then you can address it, right? You can address it back to another issue board. You can address it to maybe the MEP contractor or someone else that has to take action on this option.
Guys, those issues board, those boards, are they part of the BCF standard, or is that?
No,
it's
part of the BIMsync. Yeah. Yeah, so that's the BCF use case for what they call the customer journey. And it's some benefits. It's really centralized. It's digital. The old workflow was very much paperwork. Was very big workload, and now we see that it's not that big a workload.
And you always do it in combination with like a CD or something.
It's not really necessary, but it's easy to use a CDE for this because anybody can connect, right? Otherwise, we have to send these options to.
Yeah, true. Because then it's just sending files.
Yeah.
That makes it again complex. You have versions you got all the time.
But you could also use maybe the issue management tool you use. That could be the same, right?
Which people are using this within the workflow?
The customer guidance, site manager, the project engineer, the calculation
And then
department.
they're all using BIM-Sync, for example?
Yeah, they're in the project, and when an issue is assigned to them, because there's a question about something, and they get a pop-up from the dashboard and they instantly react.
The BCF is stored somewhere centrally. So that
Yeah,
they don't-
it's a CDE type of.
You said that customer guidance puts it still in a list, or is he also putting the new wall socket directly in the BCF? The first step was the list, and then someone puts it in the BCF.
Yeah, the first list, that's the only manual thing, because you have to put in what the customer really wants, right? And this list from there on, it's to home control and to Excel and BCF. And that's a two-way round. So you could also do the other way around from BCF to the business center list, and then obviously to home. So it's only one time, and
But I can imagine that it's also easier for the customer. Where do you want to pop? Over there, click it. He sees it right away.
yeah, that's a great potential, because we're used to do this in 2D.
Yeah.
And the customer guidance says, okay, you want a power socket there, but then in 2D it's just an annotation. But in 3D we can go through that place and maybe say it's 300 millimeter up, but also in 3D make some circle, and it should be there. And then afterwards, when the MEP, the subcontractor, puts in the power socket, we can say, okay, it's okay.
We did this approach at the other session, building energy modeling today in the morning. We showed the use case, also with BCF, how building owners would benefit from it, and the sustainability consultants. Here you perform energy audit of your building envelope, if it's existing building, and you show to your customer, like building owner, here you have a building leakage, or the door is not tight enough, so that you can show it with your thermal camera images and put if you have like you have the model, you can directly change the viewports and say here you have.
Yeah. So especially the visualization is powerful, right?
Yes.
But the visualization is also troubling. Why? Because it's something new. So I was talking about this customer guidance to maybe not use the drawings anymore, but just use the touchscreen in BIM-Sync and navigate in 3D. But that was
And in our case, the building owner got BCF separate because they don't have an access to internal stuff of the company. So they got a model along with BCF, so that they have a viewer, so they can integrate and so see that.
Yeah, and to the customer you can say you can have, of course you have 2D, but you can also have 3D. And I think most of the customers will say, oh wow, that's great, it looks great, it's much more visualized. But there's always people that are afraid of the change, right? And I think that's the biggest hurdle, to get all people to step away from a way of working that's been done maybe 30 years and go to a more digitalized way with 3D. But if you're new to BIM, because these customer guidance, they're not really involved with construction or engineering. So they're more involved with customers, so they don't know about how to navigate in 3D. So I think that's the hardest part. But because the potential is so big, I think it's a must.
It's because we're looking at, as a matter of fact, we're looking at how to implement BIM in customer service right now. I didn't think of it, but it's a bridge from your lists that you create to your model. So it sounds pretty potential.
in the end, you're totally right, you should do it the other way around, get the list from the bottom.
Yeah.
Because now someone makes a list and then someone else is putting the power socket in, but that's of course another way where it can go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
If they do it just with the customer right away, and I can imagine the customer guidance aren't used to it yet, but they should get used to it.
But what does it look like? Because in my opinion, in my experience, the BCF doesn't contain any 3D geometry, that's just a viewpoint.
Yeah, but in the CDE, the geometry is in the CDE, right? So if you click on the issue, you get to the geometry.
And you go to that position,
Yeah.
and then you just annotate something over there, and that's picked up by MEP.
Yeah.
A modeling party to put.
Yeah.
A modeling party to just make, but that it makes sense with maybe some power socket or something. But like when you want to, when the option is to put a complete attic in Zolderbouw.
Yeah, it's on a completely different.
Completely different.
Yeah.
Layout.
So what we
Layout
did,
from the.
yeah, we created the issue per aspect, per discipline. So we say we have an option, and this option includes maybe the MEP and the HVAC and some all other contractors. We say it's one option per. So in that way, we can say, okay, this is your job, this is your job is done, your job is not done, something like that.
But I think you want to do some things with dimensioning and make it clear what is.
That's all annotated.
All annotations.
Yeah, like the way they did on the drawings, but now it's digital.
It's kind of 2D in 3D.
Yeah. It's just the annotation.
Oh,
Yeah. But then again, the receiver of this BCF, it's about a power socket somewhere, and in its own application, it can use the BCF. Then there's no worry that it goes to a different house, because the BCF will take you to the right house, right? So also the contractors that work with it, they say, this is much more easy, because otherwise they would get like a list and a drawing with all codes, and you have to search for which code and what description. Oh, so I have to do this, and there's all multiple ways of getting it wrong. So BCF is sometimes a clash, task on site, questions, a call for action, customer choice, but in most cases not an issue. So let's call it a topic, because in the documentation it's also a topic. So maybe all applications could just use it, the word topic. That would be nice. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, Luciano, please contact me. Questions?
Guys, the measurement of objects, is that included in the BCF standard as well?
What?
Or if you annotate, including measurements, is that included in the
It
BCF?
still is an annotation still.
Yeah, but that is included in the BCF standard.
An image.
Yeah, but
It's an annotation on the image.
But if you go to the viewpoint in another software, it doesn't show the actual annotation, it just shows the image.
Yeah, so you go to the position in the model, but the annotations are only in the picture. But then again, you can check, right? If you have a picture with annotations and the real life model, you can check. Any more questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.